Stephen Speak, a podcast about everything and nothing. Don't forget to subscribe. Hello, welcome to Stephen Speak. I'm recording another one from the hotel, mainly because I completely fucked up and completely misunderstood which day it was and what date it was and what episode I was recording. So I'm away on a course, and I recorded the Stephen Speak from, what date was it, like 26th of September, 27th of September, 28th of September? I don't even know what date it is today. So, yeah, the 28th of September it would have been. And I recorded that one. And then I thought, I'll record the last episode of Series 1. Thinking, which is going to be out on the 9th of October. And that will be episode 24. But it isn't that date yet. So I'm recording this one for the 2nd of October. Oh my god, see, I'm so confused. Today, which is the 29th of September. So I'm going to record a few episodes in advance because when I get home from my course, we're going away on holiday to Devon. So I want to be ahead of the game because I don't really want to be recording stuff when I'm away. So I'll record them now, and I can master them and upload them when I'm away. So it's a little bit less work because I'd like to enjoy my time away. So I hope you don't mind that. So I am going to be the next episode of Extra Speak and the last episode of Stephen Speak and this episode, obviously, are all recorded remotely in a hotel room. I've just got out of the shower as well. So I'm just sat in a towel recording this. What an image for you to conjure up. Anyway, I hope you're well. And today I'm going to be talking about kind of on-demand things. And I'll probably come back to this again at some point. I think that should be a catchphrase of mine. Because I say that a lot in these episodes. I'll come back to that in another podcast, or I'll come back to that. I'll need to go through all my episodes, I think, at some point and just listen to all the times I actually say that. Or if someone's got lots of time on their hands, message me all the times that I say that. Anyway, yeah, I want to talk today about on-demand things, physical media, and how that's changed. How that's fundamentally, I think, changed society, and also the younger generations. Subscription services too. Yeah, I just think that, like I'm a child of the 80s. I was born in 1983. Work my age out from that. Please don't message me that, because I don't want to really think about it too much. No, I'm bothered about growing old. It's just, it doesn't compute to me. Yeah, I grew up in the 80s, and obviously, records was still a thing, like long play, singles. CDs were an invention at that time. Not a lot of people know. I think they were invented, I want to say 1981, but they didn't really, it took them about 8-9 years to properly become like a household thing. I may be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was like 1981, 82 when compact discs were invented. And I think they were invented not as like a music format. I think it was originally an invention for media, maybe. I don't know, I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure I've heard that somewhere, but sometimes we recall things incorrectly. I may Google while I'm talking to you. But yeah, we as a child of the 80s, media was hard. It was a hard copy. You couldn't. There's no internet. Let's face it. So that was a big downer, wasn't it? Or was it? That's what I'm trying to find out. Yeah. So there was no internet. So you got to, anything you wanted to listen to. If you wanted to go and listen to some music, you had to physically go and get a device and the media and play it. And like cassettes and LPs, there was no fast forward. Some clever cassette players could mark tapes like with a magnetic marker, and I never had anything like that. And you could fast forward and it would stop the tape when it found that marker. And I think some LPs had like a seek function on, but I don't know how accurate that was. I again had never had an LP player with a seek function on, but it was something that you had to store the store the CD LP, so it's something that was like a physical thing. So you had to and we're getting to the point now. Jesus Christ, this is all over the place. But we're getting to my point is we're getting to the point now where you don't have anything in your house like that. Your house is for if you collect things or furniture. Like, I don't know many people that nowadays would have like a CD rack, an LP rack, a row of DVDs, Blu-rays, maybe Blu-rays. But we stream everything. We buy digital copies of things. We stream our music. We stream our movies. Netflix, Paramount Plus. And there's all these streaming services that we pay subscriptions for. And it's fantastic because you get all these movies just on demand and it's at the fingertips. And I must admit, I never thought I'd buy into it, like the whole iTunes thing when that became a thing. But I have, and it's one of the things that, because it's convenient, potentially cheaper, I would say, apart from there's that many bloody streaming services now that it's not that cheap. As I think when I first started using iTunes, for example, buying music off there, like, fair enough, the digital music, you do think in the back of your mind, like, what if, like, Apple goes bust, what's going to happen to all my digital purchases, because I don't technically own anything. It's the rights, like, the right to download it, but it's not actually mine, it's not a tangible copy of a CD or a film. But, I had an iPhone and an iPad and a Mac and an Apple TV. Yes, I bought into Apple. Get over yourselves. And that was like, it's like 10, 12 years ago now, when I did that. So, 2010 was the first time I'd had an Apple product before that, but I got my first Mac in 2010. So probably like 2009 when I got my first iPhone, maybe. The first time I bought a digital album, or a digital song, I was like, oh, that was easy. Didn't have to go to the shop, didn't have to didn't have to go onto the internet, and I bought an album, and the sound quality was brilliant, and it's just like, huh. And don't worry, I've got lots of CDs, I've got them all in the loft. I burnt them all onto a hard drive, upload them all to iTunes. I have iTunes Match, which allows me to have pay like a yearly subscription, and it matches my library to the iTunes library, so I can download everything in higher quality. And I pay for that. It's a bit strange, really, because like that's like a service that is really good, but it's also I'm paying to listen to the music I've already bought, technically. And yeah, that's a bit bizarre. Anyway, the CD was invented in 1979. At the time before, let's have a look. So this is from the BBC News Round that I've just Googled. Just a little small snippet. It became the most sophisticated way to play music. And on the 25th anniversary of the first public release in 1982, so it was invented in 79, but had a first public release in 1982 for CD music. So 25 years after that, it had estimated that 200 billion CDs had been sold worldwide. And I suppose that doesn't even include like CDRs and all that sort of stuff that you could burn yourself. Or maybe it does. I don't know. But yeah, it's 1979. So that's like it's immediate. It's like 43 years old. That's kind of scary. But that was a very successful media, let's face it. So going back, I remember physical media. So when I was growing up, I had a record player, but it was one of them Fisher-Price ones who didn't actually play real records. It played toy records, so I don't suppose that really counts. And then I had a cassette player, so compact cassette. And cassettes, for me, I loved cassettes. Because you could record onto them, you could wipe them again when you record over them. I had a boombox at the time which had a built-in microphone, so I could pretend I was a DJ. I don't know if any of the right age can remember doing this. Maybe kids do it now, I don't know, but digitally. I used to have a cassette deck, And in the playback one, I used to put music from the radio on. And on the record one, I used to record over the top of it using the microphone, because you'd do a mix of it. So you could record from tape deck A to tape deck B, but if you switched it to mic mode, you could also speak over the top of it. Kind of clever, really. So I suppose you could make your own jingles, but I never use it for that. I use it to pretend I was doing a radio show, and I used to record everything. In fact, in one of my tapes that I've still got. Jesus, my brain's slow. It's been a long week on this course. It's been an intense course. One of my cassettes is the Turtles soundtrack that I recorded off a mate. And at the end of it, on the B-side, after the music, I was listening to it one day when I was doing my house up. I'd found it, and I thought, bloody hell, I'm going to put this in my boombox. So I found my boombox, put the cassette in, and because I hadn't got the soundtrack on CD or anything, and it wasn't available for digital download at the time. And you could buy the CD, but it was quite expensive. I do have the CD now, though. And I put it in the cassette player, and I played both sides, and I was painting my house, I think, when I was listening to it. And it played the last track on side B. And I was up the ladder, so I thought I'll just let it come to the end, because obviously, for those that know, the tape just gets the end, reel to reel, and then when it gets to the end, it just stops. It wasn't an auto-reverse, so it just stopped the cassette. And not long after the last track of the Turtles album, which was like a remixed song with sound clips from the film. Love that album. Still to this day. And the Ghostbusters 2 album, because I remember vividly I had Ghostbusters 2 and the Ghostbusters soundtrack recorded on two separate tapes, obviously. But I used to listen to them in, like, so much. I had a little white cassette player, portable cassette player with overhead earphones, which were orange. The sponges were orange. Amazing how you can remember things when you're a kid. And I don't know what make that cassette player was. That Walkman. Well, technically it wasn't a Walkman, because that was a Sony brand. But everyone called their portable cassette players a Walkman, even though that was the Sony thing. But yeah, I remember going everywhere with that and listening to pretty much exclusively Turtles and Ghostbusters too. But when it came to the end of that track, there was like this weird warping sound, like where they sound like the tape had stretched, or maybe when I started recording, I had pressed pause or something, and it was like that. And then it was me, as probably like a 7 or 8 year old child, pretending to be a radio DJ. And in the background, it was my brother's Amstrad. The music in the background was my brother's Amstrad playing Dizzy Egg. And I'm going, yeah, this is Radio Steve, or something like that, over the top of it. Going, yeah, let's get dizzy, over the top of it, which is pathetic. But it's hilarious as well. If you hear, like, little young me thinking I'm cool as fuck doing this radio show. And it's really, it just does amuse me quite a lot to listen to. I sometimes listen to it. And I think I'm pretending to interview MC Hammer or something like that, and trying to do a terrible impression of him singing Pray. It's quite a revelation, to be honest. But that was the joy of like a physical media. You know, as a child, it was cheap and accessible and rewritable, and I think that was what I loved about it. You know, being creative. I've always had this creative force in me, and I think for me it really appealed to me that I could record my own music for free off the radio. Was that even legal? I don't know. But if your mate had a CD or a tape, you'd copy it. You know. Did you tape was it that you taped the holes up? See, I'm quite old, I forget. Did you have to tape the holes up, or did you have to did you have to snap them out? I can't remember. There was like a little right protected hole at the top. And I can't remember if you had to snap the thing out to record on it, or to do recordings. Well, I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, and then we started, you know, I had quite a vast tape collection. Well, I'll say vast, I had quite a lot of tapes, but again, you know, when you're a kid, you spend your money on certain things, and because the media was so recordable, it was that whole thing. We used to sit on a Sunday night, and if we had some favourite songs, we'd sit and listen to the top 40 countdown off the radio, and sit patiently with the pause button pressed, waiting for Simon Mayo, I think it was, normally doing the countdown, and press the pause button to record our favourite songs, and then it was trying to press it at the right time so you didn't get him speaking over the track. So you could basically have like a little compilation of your songs. Sometimes they weren't the full tracks normally because, you know, they used to cut them off slightly and speak over them and stuff like that. But as a kid, you didn't care. You had most of the track. You know, you did it for free, and you could plonk it in your tape player the next day and go to school, or just listen to it in your bedroom, and you had a mixture of songs. And yeah, that was kind of a joy. It was a real painful experience. And the thing that used to really annoy me and my brother is we used to say to our mum, because normally Gavin would be recording it in his room. When I got older, I'd copy him and I'd record it in my room. Or sometimes one of us would record every single song and then would record it for the other person. Just duplicate the tape. But generally, it was me and Gavin in separate rooms, because I've said before that we didn't really get along when we were younger because the age gap was so long, so big, so long, so big. But the thing that used to annoy us both was the top 40. I think it started about 5 o'clock. So that was around tea time. So if we hadn't already eaten, which was normally quite rare, did it start that early? I feel like it started near tea time or just around when tea time should be finishing. So if we were like late or whatever, we could miss some songs. Or if our tea was late, then tea would arrive halfway down the charts. And obviously the top 20 is where it's at, isn't it? Like, you've probably already recorded the ones that are like leaving the charts. You want all the new releases that are probably going to be top 10, top 20. And my mother had quite a terrible habit of have bad timing. I think she used to do this deliberately, to be honest, because this wasn't normal. Like, she used to do it for Star Trek. Star Trek Next Generation used to be on BBC Two at 6 o'clock, and we'd normally finish tea about 10 to 5:45. We were quite kind of clockwork in our house, and she'd always demand to see the 6 o'clock news headlines. Like, she didn't care if I don't feel like she didn't even care about the headlines, because half the time she might phone someone and go on the phone, and you're like, and you go turn it on BBC Two. She went, "No, I'm watching this." You're on the phone. Like, what are you doing? Like, and I swear it was like a punishment. I feel like it was just a power thing. And we weren't allowed to, for some reason, we weren't allowed to go upstairs. I think it was because if we were eating the yogurt for dessert, or we just had a tea, we had to let the tea go down, or I don't know. Because me and my brother shared a TV upstairs, and we weren't allowed to go upstairs and watch it. I think they maybe wanted to monitor it. Actually, thinking of it, maybe they wanted to make sure that it was suitable. Yeah, but she always wanted to watch the news headlines. So for years, like, I'd not seen the beginning of most of the Next Generation, missed most of the beginnings of Quantum Leap, missed most of the beginnings of most Star Trek series. Actually, thinking of it, when they started on. Yeah, really annoying. And that's the thing, though, isn't it? Like, nowadays, like, kids won't have that because, like, the news is on your phone, everything's on the internet, isn't it? So, like, that wouldn't really happen. Mum, can I watch this? No, what? Watch news headlines. Look at it on your phone. It's literally live 24/7. There's like 50 24/7 news channels. Yeah, I think that's really bizarre. Yeah, and then obviously we moved from tape to CD, and then your CD collection started. But, you know, I still used my cassette player. I used to record from CD to cassette and use my cassette player. And I used my personal stereo into high school, well into high school. In fact, I don't think I had a CD player. I think I bridged the gap. I went from cassette to minidisc. And there is an extra speak on my passion for minidiscs. If you don't know my passion for minidiscs, then you know, I'm sorry that I'm gonna have to say a little bit about them again. Greatest format ever, in my opinion. If you don't know what minidisc is, I'd definitely go and listen to that extra speak. You will hear my passion. But they were basically like a little miniature CD in a cassette. They were like in a plastic box for all intents and purposes. A bit like a floppy disk, basically, but with a miniature CD. And the player for it was, yeah, it was so small, and going from like a when you've gone from having like a when you've gone from having a cassette in your hand, a cassette player, to a such a thing that's just not much bigger than an actual mini disc itself. It's really, I don't know. There was something so futuristic about it for me. Like I can't describe it. Like, and I don't know what the equivalent would be today. I really don't, because most people have grown up with like CDs or digital format. Maybe it would be the leap to digital format. But when you've walked around with a cassette player, which is quite a bulky thing, let's face it, and the batteries don't last very long. I mean, a few hours probably at most for a set of batteries. And if you want to listen to more than one album, unless you'd made a compilation, you had to carry extra cassettes around. And let's face it, the cassettes were quite big. So if I went anywhere, I always used to like take 4 or 5 cassettes with me, plus one in the player. So, but you're carrying a bag then. Let's face it, you're carrying a bag around with you, and some spare batteries. But when I got my mini disc player, it was, it came with an internal removable but like gum stick battery, which I think could last like 6 or 7 hours, which was amazing. Maybe longer than that, maybe 8 or 9 hours. I can't quite remember the specs. I remember it used to last me all day at college. I never used to need to charge it. It probably lasted me a couple of days on the bus and in between, walking around college and stuff, and in lessons and such things. But yeah, and it had an external battery pack if I really needed it. But to carry a mini disc, it had 80 minutes of music on it. Well, there was 74-minute discs and 80-minute discs, and then you could put it in long play mode, which like, did it double or quadruple the amount of time? I think it doubled the time. So you could fit like 4 or 5 albums on a mini disc then. So fundamentally, the one you took with you, if you managed to record like a good compilation, which would take some time, let's face it, because how I had to do it, I had a stereo at home that I upgraded. I saved all my money between like school and college. Actually, when I was at school, I'd saved all my paper round money. And this is why I got my portable one, because that was the end game. I thought I saved money for like 2 years, and I bought this. I wanted a hi-fi system for my room, and I ended up buying a top of the range one with a mini disc player. And I'd seen mini discs, so I thought I'm gonna have that one with a mini disc player. And I'm going to get a job, and I'll buy myself a portable mini disc player. And I did. I stuck to my plan, and I did that. So what I used to do is put my mini disc in the mini disc hi-fi system, record from CDs, and it had a 3 CD changer. So I'd put 3 CDs in from compilations albums, like the Now albums, and I'd program the tracks to play, and then sync record onto the mini disc in long play. And then once I'd done that, put another 3 CDs in, program what tracks I wanted, record them. But it had to record in real time. So you couldn't like dub speed like you could with a cassette. Like a cassette, you could like dub speed, which I think was like 1.5 times recording or twice recording. I can't quite remember. So you just had to leave it. But I didn't care, because half the time I'd like the music. I was obviously liking the music I was recording. So I'd sometimes just sit in my room and listen to it. Other times I would leave and go and do something. And you could just turn the volume down, because it was obviously digitally recording from inside, so the volume didn't need to be up. And then Bob's Your Uncle, once it was recorded, you had a full mini disc of music, and I was pretty hot on at literally getting like 79 minutes and 50 seconds of recording. I used to choose my songs wisely, but yeah, and that's what we had to do. And I was devastated, when mini discs didn't really take off too much in this country, and I had my heart set on getting the new version, and it didn't come out, and I think that's what drove me to digital, really, because I bought a Sony MP3 player after that, and I had all my CDs. I sat and copied them all to a hard drive, and then dragged and dropped them onto my MP3 player. But I still liked the physical media, because I still had my hi-fi system. So at home I would use my CDs. I did start getting out of that though. I started going, well, you know what? I just want to press shuffle and have all my songs shuffling, because like I think at the time I had like 6,000 songs on my 6 or 8,000 songs, and it was amazing to have this small device that sat in the palm of your hand, like my Maze player, but I had every single song I owned. And then obviously when the iPhone came out and the iPod came out, then that changed the game again, because you could have every song you owned, but if you didn't have one, you could literally instantly pay for it and download it. And then now with subscriptions, like Apple Music, you can just download anything. If you hear a song, go and search for it, and it's yours to download, as long as you're still paying them a subscription. And we've gone the same with like visual media, like DVDs and Blu-rays. I honestly can't remember the last time I bought a Blu-ray. In fact, my mate Scott is probably the only person that buys me Blu-rays, and I'm fussy with what I buy now. Like DVDs, years ago, I used to just buy DVDs when I was at college and I had a job. When I started on the railway, I had quite a lot of disposable income because I lived at home, no bills, and I bought a lot of DVDs. And they would sit in my bedroom. When I moved house, they were like a collection. And again, they take up quite a lot of room. If you think about it, the cases really weren't. They could have been a lot smaller. So they could have been CD cases. Let's face it, but they didn't. They put them in them tall cases. And they took a lot of room up. And I've got rid of all my DVDs. There's only a few that I've kept that are like special edition versions of films. And my Blu-rays, I pick and choose. The Blu-rays that I own are films that the majority of them, ones that I am a massive fan of, and I want a physical copy of. And CD albums, the only ones I buy now are Iron Maiden albums, I think. I think they're the only ones that I continue to get, because I have the full collection of Iron Maiden albums, and I want to keep that collection going. I mean, it concerns me in some ways. Again, my mate Scott, he still buys physical. He likes the physical copy of things. He is, and I think I would as well. But I don't know. I do like the convenience of just being able to watch something from just iTunes and just get it up and watch it. And the subscription services at the moment, they are offering a vast thing. Like I'm not sponsored by anything, but I mean I am subscribed to everything, pretty much. I've got Discovery Plus, Paramount Plus, Netflix. I've got Amazon Prime. Did I say Disney Plus? I've got Disney Plus, and the Disney Plus one I feel is quite good value, to be honest, because there's a plethora of stuff, and I know a lot of it I've seen because obviously all the Star Wars stuff and all that, and I've seen a lot of them, but they are putting a lot of new content on there, and then they have like the Hulu stuff and the Stars, is it Stars or something like that? They've got loads of films, obviously, because they own Fox, they've got a Fox catalogue, so it's really good on Disney Plus is. Paramount Plus, obviously, because of Star Trek. But I think eventually I will like dip in and out of them, so I'll be like, you know what, there's nothing on Paramount Plus that I want at the moment, I'll pause that for now. You know what, I've seen everything I want on Disney and there's nothing coming out for now, so I'll put a pin in that. And I think that's the way it's going to go. I mean, it would be brilliant if there was just one whole subscription system and it was just like 30 quid a month and it just got shared out, I think that would be great. But it's never going to happen, isn't it? Let's face it. Corporations are after money, and they're all going to be competing for your cash. But I do miss that physical thing, because everything's such on demand, and I feel that it's made people impatient. It's made me impatient, like internet now. Like internet when I was a kid was so slow, and you just coped with it. I mean, God, if my phone does not load something pretty much instantaneous, I'm just like, what the hell? Because we get so used to that, and the same with streaming services. We're just so used to all this information and media at our fingertips that I have a record player still. I have an LP player. I still have cassettes, and there is something nice about going through your collection. Fingering your way through them, finding that one that you'd forgotten about or hadn't listened to in a while, taking it out, putting it on your record player. And like LPs were probably a bit before my time, but it was a media that was still in there, so it's still nostalgic to me. And I like to put it on, and then there's no skipping the tracks. Like people, like music producers and stuff, they spend a lot of time like having a track order, and shuffles killed that. And there's nothing like listening to an album from track one to track whatever to the end of the album, turning the LP over halfway. And that for me is a little bit of pleasure, and that physicality of holding something. And all the LPs I have now, then mostly I buy like special edition ones, like heavy pressed ones. What's the name for that? I can't think. A brain today. But I like that whole thing of like having that physical thing, interacting with something. And don't get me wrong, I do love the whole like instantaneous, like let's listen to some stuff. But yeah, there's some magic in holding something in your hand and knowing that the thing's reading it and converting that to music. Yeah, it's a joy to me, that is. And I do miss the days of cassette players and mini disc players and being limited, being out and about, and the choices you've made of what music to take with you is the choice you've made. And if you suddenly want to listen to Metallica and you haven't got Metallica with you, then you're going to have to put that Alanis Morissette mini disc back in, which is not a bad thing. I played my Alanis Morissette Jagged Little Pill MD to death. Yeah, and I just think that's a shame that kids miss that now. It's just everything's on demand, iPads, iPhones, information constantly in your face. And don't get me started on like this whole mobile device thing. Like I'm really just talking really about music and film, but the whole like having your device with you all the time. And don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of it, but it does it takes the wonder out of things. And to coin a phrase, that's definitely a podcast in itself. And I think on that note, I've jibber-jabbered long enough about reminiscing about old media formats that I wish hadn't gone away, and kind of feel like they should still be here, and other things never invented, apart from Indisc. They should always be here. I am so tempted to try and buy Minidisc online. My Minidisc player died a long time ago. Sarah thinks I'm mad, and I said this on the previous Steven Speak Extra, that I am actually going to set it in resin and put it on the wall, just because, just because. Right, anyway, you take care of yourselves. Thank you very much for listening. Send me a DM if you like on Steven Speak PC, at Steven Speak PC on social media, and I'd be interested to know what you think about all this media and on-demand stuff and physical media, as opposed to holding nothing apart from a £1,000 smartphone and paying £30 a month to listen to music. Anyway, you take care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you soon. You've been listening to Steven Speak Podcast. I'd appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button.